spicy rice.
Why did you decide to build Solana? And then for you two, why did you decide to build on Solana?
We're gonna hear Toly's story about the boxes in Singapore. Right.
So like I always had a side project. I mean, I think since I was like high school, just kind of messing around, and then like in college, Greg was the CTO of Labs, and then I and like a couple other guys, we built voice over IP stuff. Like this was like before 2003, before Vonage, if people remember what that is. So we like build like automation for phones. We didn't know anything about business or whatever, and that was my first, probably like closer to a real startup. But I ended up at Qualcomm, and for like 15 years, we would like literally like go surf and like just bounce ideas off each other, either like esoteric stuff about programming languages or like practical things. What if we built this or whatever? And none of them had like legs or traction. I think both of us were not great business people. We were more attracted to like figuring out like a big grand idea that could like be disruptive, which is like far less likely to succeed, right? Like you're not gonna build like a SaaS company like that. But in 2017, Steve Ackridge and I, who's the CTO of Anza now, one of the co-founders, we were building deep learning boxes. And this is just when people figured out that you can generate like hallucinations with deep learning. I was into neural networks because they're cool, and like I'm like, okay, what if we just like build these boxes? Nobody really needs them, but we could mine crypto in the background to pay for the GPUs and build software for people to run TensorFlow jobs on them. And this is how I got into crypto. I was mining like, it was a Claymore or something that would like switch to whatever POW coin was like the best any given second, and it would just mine some random stuff. And we were at Cafe Soleil drinking beer, and I had 2 coffees and a beer, and it like didn't sit with me. And I had this like literally Eureka moment in the night that there's a way to like generate a data structure that represents the passage of time. And why it was like so high impact to me was that, I don't know if you remember your physics or your college math, there is no succinct representation of time in math. You can like run Einstein's equations forwards and backwards in time. Just time is like really poorly represented mathematically. And I thought, holy shit, this is like a way to represent time. It's the era of time defined in math. It just seemed really, really cool to me, and I couldn't put it down. I really had like a manic episode. I don't know how else to describe it. Like I couldn't sleep for 4 days. Like my wife told me like, you should just stay home from work. You're like kind of losing it. It took me a while to like explain the whole concept to a bunch of my friends, but they're like, yeah, this seems like it could work. And what it meant was that like the idea does represent time, but I just didn't know what to Google for. There's literally like these things are called verifiable delay functions, and Dan Bonnet and a bunch of people at Stanford were like way more advanced and way deeper than me. It's the fact that I didn't know what to Google for is what like that
was the signal.
Yeah, that told me that like, oh man, you have something so unique that it's just really hard to find on the internet. And like, what actually got me out the door and do this seriously? So my wife was at Columbia working on a competitor to Facebook back when it was still called like Harvard Connect, and her memory was that like there's like 6 months window where you have like when the market is like super hot for an idea. Everyone knows there's going to be a thing. And everyone is kind of starting to build that thing. And there's just kind of a huge race to go do it. If you're a little too late, you're just not going to be able to like get the funding and the team and everything else, because there's just be too many competitors. So she already had like a tech job and could support us, and we had one kid at the time, and her like ultimatum was that like basically you can't do a side project, full-time job, and dad. You have to pick two. So yeah. So like I like being in Silicon Valley, you kind of have a lot of benefits just being able to take those risks. One, when I told Dropbox, they literally said, come back in 6 months if it doesn't work out. Because like it happens all the time. It's just there's constant churn. And then you also have like 50 different companies that will hire you as I'm an engineer, so you kind of very, very easy to like bounce back. So it felt like fairly low risk from that perspective, but still like you have a family to support,
That's right.
Rent is high and stuff like that.
It's funny you talking about this is nostalgic for me because I remember you talking about all of this on those like early Solana podcasts.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool because I think about it like back then and like what Solana was at the beginning and what it is now. There's like 5,000 attendees at Breakpoint.
Yeah.
That's great. I went to the first Breakpoint. It wasn't that big.
Yeah.
It's actually wild how far it's come in these like short couple of years. But
yeah, it's crazy.
Let me turn to you guys. Like, why did you decide to build on this chain specifically? You can go first.
Yeah, so I was at Coinbase. I was a tech lead for the platform team there, which handles the settlement of balances and transaction histories and stuff like that for all the chains. And, having been in crypto for a bit, I was super annoyed by the lack of applications that are non-Ponzi or are actually useful. And so I was like, okay, like how can I actually meaningfully help this problem in any way? And I figured that actually there's nothing today that works for a scalable infrastructure for a developer to build on. This was in 2022 because like at the time there's not too many apps. But then the question was like, okay, where do you build? And I was doing a lot of research into the different L1s, even like Polkadot, but Solana, and I read the white paper, and actually me and my co-founders did a double in pure math and communications engineering, which is like, if you hear Anatoly speak about Solana, it's very much like a communications channel, like system. And I was kind of like, that's actually like, I never thought of blockchains that way. And so I was like, okay, like we'll just I started building some own stuff on my own. At first it was like bots and scripts and indexers, because there was no explorers at the time. And then I got annoyed one more day again. I was like,
shocking.
Yeah, because somebody was just, huh?
We talked earlier in your process.
Yeah, actually, I was, I knew I wanted to do something, and actually I was interviewing with Jito. I was going to be, I think, maybe the first or second employee.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And then I already talked to Lucas twice, and then it was the interview with Zano, and then like 10 minutes before, I was like, fuck this, I'm just going to start my own shit.
And a dog in him.
And then I messaged Zano, I'm like, sorry man, I'm just going to start my own company. And then he was like super nice about it. And the reason I picked Solana was actually super simple, because at that time, Ethereum needed a bunch of conditionals to successfully scale for an app builder. Like at the time, the merge hadn't happened, 4844 hadn't happened, and then L2s need to get to stage 2, and then value accrual needs to be fixed, and all these different things. And every time you multiply a conditional, you reduce the overall probability of success. Versus with Solana, it's like, okay, this already works. Some of the things are, Toly says left to the reader as an exercise. But it's like those are probably fixable, because we know how to do it. Like my co-founders did developer platforms before. And I mean, the short answer is just because it's the best place to build apps that are fast, cheap, and scalable.
There you go. So, your turn, my man.
I think mine's kind of similar to Toly, where it's like you always kind of have a side project, like hacking on something, and like I I studied computer engineering and was like really obsessed with computers, and I was always hacking on some like embedded system project, like an LED panels and lights and things like that. And say what?
Bulldozers.
Yeah. Just like cool stuff I thought was cool. I always gravitated to. So yeah, I was into crypto for a while, and obviously, like, well, not obviously, but 2017 there was like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and the user experience just sucked. It still kind of sucks to this day. Like, that was how many years ago was that? Like 8 or 9 years ago, and it's still the same user experience as it was back then. And there's just kind of something refreshing about Solana and this mission to just like accelerate as fast as possible. Like, why are we not taking advantage of the hardware and computers and how fast things can go? And it's always kind of frustrating, like, just people kind of just like throwing up their hands, like, oh yeah, like, what about my Raspberry Pi, or like, what about this? It's like the CIA sabotage manual.
I think that is just an excuse, but reality is that it's just actually really, really hard to even take advantage of the hardware you have.
Yeah.
Like, it just sucks. Like, software sucks, it gets slow. You like have an allocation in like some weird part of the stack very deep, and it like everything slows down. Like getting like 1 million ops per second in like a benchmark is challenging. Like, but in a production system is really, really hard. So I think there's like kind of a lot of excuses people say, oh, we don't want to like, we care about like low hardware. It's just, you're not going to, it's going to take a lot of work to rewrite that software to take advantage of like 16 cores and actually scale 16x with that much.
Well, yeah, I mean, even like, we know that the software, if you look at like some of the all L1s that are running the same software, they just like crank up, mess some parameters, and like, now you have a new L1. Like, let's just kind of crank it up and start this new L1. But there's kind of this like, there wasn't that mindset of like, let's go see how fast we can go. And I think that's like what's needed.
Yeah.
It was refreshing. Like, you use Solana and it's like, this is a blockchain.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
This is crazy.
So
Most of the time.
Most of the
Yeah. When it works, it's amazing.
When it works, it's amazing. I come at it from a different perspective. I'm not like you guys. I didn't come from like technical background. So I came at it from a pure user experience, from the pure user side of things. And I mean, I've been in, blockchains or trading them since 2014 was when I first started buying Bitcoin. Early user on Ethereum, and the first time I used Solana was like pretty mind blowing because I didn't, my transaction didn't fail and I just lost $150 for no reason. So like when the transaction settled so fast and it cost me a fraction of a cent, I was like, okay, I had lived in Asia, I had lived in Africa, and I'm like, this is scalable. People all over the world can afford to actually use this thing. So before we get into, like phone stuff, I want to talk about Solana culture, because that's also what probably kept me in Solana. How did you guys think through what you wanted culture to be? Did you and Raj really talk about that, and then did you kind of direct it, or did it just happen organically?
So like Greg, Steven, and I all went to Urbana-Champaign. We actually met through this sport called underwater hockey, and we got obsessed with it.
Okay.
And like,
what? Wait, hold on.
all of us,
Describe the sport for us.
you hold your breath, and you wear fins and snorkel, and you have a stick, maybe this big, and a puck with a lead core, so it's in the bottom of a pool. But you have to hold your breath. So you are kind of fighting this resource battle with like, you need to score, and you need to sprint underwater. And you're running out of oxygen. So
you were playing this?
Yeah.
You were actually doing this? Like where? The
you
local
play in
Y?
a pool, like local Y or wherever. Like most colleges have so the reason why you get into it in college is co-ed. And like the reason why you keep playing it is because you have nothing else to do post college, right? So I played in San Diego, and like Greg and Steven moved out there post college. We all played, and we got so into it that we like tried out for the Worlds team. Greg was really good. He like always made the team. I made it like one of the years. Steven made it another time, and we were Ironman athletes because of that, because you're training to get on the team, so you're constantly working out. So you have this culture, it's called HTFU. It's a slight cycling term, harden the fuck up. It's rule number 5. So, like, so that was like the core kind of nugget of like us being 3 engineers and like have worked for over a decade and known each other, and like, I don't know if I could, even if we were friends, I don't know if I could have pushed him as hard as I did had we not had that kind of shared experience. And like, I was a first-time founder. People trusted me with like more money than I could earn as an engineer. And I was like terrifying, and I like whipped the team really hard. And I knew that those guys could take it. So we kind of had this like culture of like HTFU, like don't complain. You gotta do work. And like, I had kids, Greg had kids, Steven had kids, and one of us would be coding at like post diaper change at 2 a.m. like on Discord, like building stuff, and like I think that just kind of rubbed off on everyone.
Yeah. What do you guys think about
Chewing glass.
chewing glass?
Chewing glass.
Yeah.
Is that an attractive thing for you guys? Like, what do you think about?
Yeah.
What do you think about Solana culture in general? I guess.
I think that definitely attracted the right type of person. I think at this point, it's like maybe not, that wasn't sustainable for everyone. It's like, how does this thing work? It's like no one knows. There's like the documentation's out of date. They're just like moving so fast that you just gotta like chew glass and figure it out. But I think that there's still a lot of those builders around, and that like pushes everyone to kind of do the same. Just gotta kind of figure it out, and like no one's gonna help you except for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, mine is I was gonna do a PhD in school, and then I worked at BlackBerry, which was, on the way right down, and I got like an appreciation for shipping shit instead of just thinking about shipping shit, and that's my favorite thing about Solana, which is like there's no over pontification of several years. Like, should we do this? It's kind of like just ship the fucking thing, and it's like if it works, great. If it doesn't, we'll figure it out then, or something like, or maybe more succinctly put, the engineering and pragmatism focus over, intellectual mind games is what I like the most, and I still like that the most. Obviously, it has its downsides as well, but I think the upside definitely outweighs it, and it's just how engineering works.
So let's talk about like what's coming up for Solana. What the future looks like. We have. Well, actually, you tell me. What are you excited about?
Firedancer being live. So I think kind of why I've been calling it beta, and I honestly don't know why like all these other networks that have launched don't call their software beta, because it's definitely is still in beta. I've been like adamant about it because I feel like there's until like there's no single points of failure, like you haven't like actually like built the true vision of like these networks. And I have like a ton of respect for Ethereum, despite them being really slow in a lot of things, but they have 4 clients, which means that there is no single points of failure. So with Firedancer being out, it's kind of I can rip the beta tag off and just call it mainnet. That to me is really important. Also, I think they've done a lot of the next gen engineering work to really find where the bottlenecks are in the implementation. So to get us to that like next level of performance, they've kind of done all that work. So now it just takes time to productionize it and stuff like that. So like it feels really, really downhill once that's out. The second part, I mean, personally, I've been working on mobile, so I'm excited for the second phone, chapter 2, and like getting the hardware out in the hands of people. It was a weird experiment to get like 20,000 devices, and it was a slog. Like every startup, it feels like it's gonna fail until it doesn't. And now with both of them together, 160,000 units is like pretty decent size for like an ecosystem, for like especially for crypto. So I'm excited to see like once the device is in people's hands, are people actually going to start writing dApps that consume tokens, get like the whole crypto gaming fun entertainment ecosystem going, or not? Like everything is out there. Like there's enough stuff there for the whole experiment to succeed until end.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
How did the Bonk airdrop affect your thinking about how to launch a product?
So the whole thesis for it is that like Apple, Google charge 20 to 30%. When people talk about disrupting banks, like Visa charge, like that transaction is bips. Their profit is measured in bips. Visa's revenue compared to their payment volume is 10 bips. So like these are very, very small, very thin profit margin businesses. Apple and Google is 20, 30%. It's massive rake. The challenge there is that like the consumer doesn't pay it, the developer pays it, and the product that they're selling has like no manufacturing costs. Like once you build the content, the whatever, the Netflix show or the Clash of Clans game or whatever, it doesn't matter how many copies you sell. So the unit economics are basically zero, and Apple can charge you a percentage on distribution because all you care about is just selling more units. So they have this like weird local minimum on like hold of developer revenue that's really, really hard to disrupt. So the theory is that like if we have a device, will devs find their most kind of spendiest users in their iOS App Store and Clash of Clans and subsidize them to move over to a different platform, to a different gaming system or whatever? Can they give away content? And that like is just easy to do in crypto. It's easy to give away content that people have value because it's tokens, it's NFTs. People will trade it and ascertain value to it. It's harder to do it with like, Fortnite skins or whatever, but it will definitely work at the tail end. People do value those like badges and like that like social whatever things that you earned in those games become actually valuable to the people. So there's a way to do it, but like that will take time to do it. So Bonk actually proved that whole loop works in one like weird experiment. Just like took 9 months of like nothing. Like we were selling like 50 devices a week. It was like a slog, and then like in one day it sold out 15,000 devices. And what we noticed is that like people were not buying the phone for the Bonk. They already had the Bonk. They sold Bonk and bought the phone to get their Bonk back. So they valued the content. They knew they were getting it. So like you could see somebody that has like a Fortnite NFT that they truly value, that's like, hey, I know I'm gonna get it back with this device. I can sell it and go buy this device, right? Like you could see that loop working if it was like fully implemented in like a much bigger game. So we kind of rushed without like anything, like no plan. Like we just need to get like seize the moment, get the stupid pre-sale page out with the leaderboard like as fast as you can.
Yeah. in true Solana fashion, yeah. But it worked though.
And then build the rest like as we go.
Yeah.
But like once you build one phone, you can build another one. Like so, like that part, I felt like was also downhill.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? Like, what do you think about mobile? And is it important for, I guess, adoption in Solana, or how important is it?
If I look at like my application time or like how much time I'm spending in different ecosystems, whether it's like Twitter, Instagram, whatever, it's all on mobile. So
yeah, it's important.
yeah, like how much time do you spend on Twitter on your computer versus your phone or Instagram, or even like boring stuff like mail. Like it's just like everywhere is mobile.
So the last phone was award winning.
Yeah.
We got the Bust of the Year award.
That's right.
What was awesome about it is that like I feel like a lot of companies that get like a bad review from Marquez are like they just crumble. Like because yeah, I think in true Solana fashion, we just like embrace the warts. It was like an outage. You're like, like people didn't care about that part, and that's actually like a strong indicator that there's something interesting there. Like that people didn't care as much about the quality or the comps compared to like the other devices. That they cared about the ecosystem and the reward loop and all this other stuff. But the new phone is way better in every dimension. It's lighter. The seed vault is better integrated. There should be like literally no additional clicks or thumbprint scans that you need to do. It should just be like Apple Pay, like really, really slick experience. Like the whole wallet is integrated through and through. The display is awesome. It's like a top tier display. Battery life should be really good. So it's more affordable. It's cheaper.
ABC.
It's like everything. Everything is better. It's like a true
100%.
We should get the most improved device award.
What's
Yeah, we'll send it to him when we're ready.
what's the hardest? What was the hardest part about the second phone?
Like building the second one. I mean, it was way easier than the first one because you're not building a device during COVID that's extremely small units.
Yeah.
Like
finding the manufacturer is
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah, everything is a lot
cheaper.
easier, and because we're like at 140,000 units, it's just the amortization is much better, and like everything becomes simpler. Like the huge advantage that like Samsung and Apple and all those guys have is that everything they're doing is in like tens of millions, so they can really scale up and the costs and stuff like that. They're like.
Well, I mean, the hardest part is undoubtedly going to be getting developers to build mobile-first apps. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, that
Great
is.
question.
So like
More airdrops.
devs love the idea of no fees in the mobile app store. That is just like a really easy thing to sell them on. What they don't like is the small number of users. So the hope is that like it's easier with crypto devs because they're used to like small number of users. So like games like Parallels, they were like immediately like, oh yeah, 100% we're doing it. What do we need to help? Traditional game companies is just a much harder to sell, but like I think you gotta like get one domino over, and if they can see that there's revenue there, they'll get it.
Yeah. So how do you start that flywheel, though? How do you start that flywheel? How do you get the users?
It's a good question.
Because you have to build the apps that
yeah,
people
yeah.
like, right?
This is like why I
Chicken
think
or egg.
crypto might be like the easier play, and like the way that I think the bigger companies could start messing around here is like have their like weird like crypto diehard team that's the innovation team inside, you know, Epic or whatever, to go build one of their games like as a different brand, don't even associate it with like the main brand or anything like that. Just go try and experiment. So like the thing that they need to understand is that like in iOS you get very massive distribution, but only like I would say like 1 to 5% of the user base generates like 80% of the revenue, like in Clash of Clans and Candy Crush and all that. But they rely on that super wide distribution to go find those people. In crypto, you have a small user base that will generate a ton of revenue, right? Like look at photo finish and stuff like that. That's the amount of revenue per user that they get is unheard of, like in gaming, like at all. Like it's like 1,000 times better than Fortnite. But you have to build that specific game for that audience and like get them the product that they want. So it's tougher for big companies to do that. What's great about mobile is I have to dog food the chain, like, and actually not just like mess around with it for payments. Like trying to build like a game ecosystem, you have to use every part of the stack, the marketplaces, NFTs, everything. So the minting cost to airdrop content to 140,000 units is expensive because state is expensive. So I've been harping on Mert to go release the generalized compression stack, and a button to make it easy to airdrop to all mobile devices.
Do you want to talk about it?
Sure. So we're going to be releasing two things. The one is with Light Protocol. It's just ZK compression, not a roll-up, not an L2, not even a network extension, just ZK compression. Okay, that's the name. And that'll help developers save up to anywhere from 1,000 to 4,000x on cost on minting large numbers of things or working with large numbers of accounts on Solana in general. It should also help with state growth, but I'll actually too technical. It'll make chain more scalable. And
thank you.
Yes.
I can understand you when you say things like that.
And then for the phone specifically, we have a tool called AirShip, and it's big Zeppelin, like a little blimp. And it'll basically be like a one-click thing where you just import whoever you want to airdrop to and use ZK compression to airdrop in bulk to hundreds of thousands of people for much cheaper than before. There's a UI, but there's also a CLI if you want to run it on your own stuff.
So let me ask you, if like for my community, say I had like 8,000 people or whatever. It's not 100,000, but I had 8,000 people to airdrop something to. How much would that theoretically cost me?
Oh, I don't know.
20 cents right now per account, right?
Yeah, it depends on the soul price at that time as well. But like the relative savings will be on the order of 1,000 to 4,000x.
Really?
Yeah, but like it'll depend on some other factors.
Okay.
We'll have a calculator
So it might be like $1,000.
Yeah.
To airdrop to 8,000 people, right? A token for like the whole 140,000 units, it'd be like about $100 to airdrop with ZK compression.
And without it,
40,000.
Good tech, I guess.
That's hilarious. That's cool though. That's really cool. So what are you excited for?
Definitely Firedancer.
Which part? Their TPU optimizations, the second client?
Definitely all the optimizations. I think it's way everyone always like, it's easy to look at something and be like, oh, this sucks, like I would have done this differently. Obviously it's like way different when you're building it. You have no idea what the hell is going on and like what it's going to form to, and especially when you're like it was pretty hard for you guys to get funding, and like you had to lay some people off, and it's like no one cares. It's just like, just fucking ship and like make it work, and like we'll figure it out later. So it's incredible that it's like gotten to this point. But having another team that can like zoom out and look at this thing as a whole and kind of like take all the good pieces of Solana and like really optimize it, it's going to be incredible for like user experience and applications on Solana. And then also like to Toly's point earlier, like taking a look at, what if we tweak this little thing, like maybe the chain can run like 3 times faster, or like tweaking certain pieces of it to make it simpler, make it run faster. Super cool.
Yeah. That's really cool. Do you have any other questions for each other? Anything you want to know? What's on your mind?
What are you worried about?
Yeah, that's a great
What
question.
am I worried about?
Yeah.
Great question.
Our network extension's parasitic to Solana.
Oh my God. I actually already got asked that today. I was doing a podcast, the chopping block with Hasib and stuff.
I think the difference is that like the core L1 is always trying to be cheaper and faster. There is no like.
Yes, I told him this. I said this is what Toly would say.
There's no like theological block on like scaling the L1. It's just always because the next release, more bandwidth, lower latency. So like whatever these other systems are competing with mainnet, so they have to be somehow better than it in some dimension. And that's fine. Like competition's good. Everyone will just get better.
In terms of what I'm worried about, probably two things. One would be slowing down because Solana is ahead very clearly today, and that might give people a false sense of security that it's like some sort of finished race or something, but the reality is everybody else is coming for you at all times, trying to kill you and murder your family. Like they're coming for you.
Solana killers are out there right around the corner.
Solana killers. Yeah. So like no one should be comfortable at all. There should always be paranoid.
Accelerate.
They're all coming. So I'm worried about that, people getting comfortable. And two is more of an unknown one that I don't think anybody can know, which is it's unclear if a global state machine will be necessary for most crypto use cases to me. Like the obvious example is a game. Like a game can use isolated state and it doesn't actually need replication all over the world. So that can live on a roll-up. Like Sonic, there's an SVM roll-up that goes on Solana. So it's more of a use case question, which is like, will we bring finance, all of finance on chain? If we do, then Toly calls it the financial computer. Then a global state machine makes the most sense. But if it turns out to be use cases that are like pretty isolated, it's like I wonder how that looks. So that's probably one of the worries. That's like a long-term worry.
Yeah. What about you? I'm curious.
What worries me?
Yeah, what are you worried about?
Say I want to see more people building on Solana and SVM. I think when you look at the Ethereum virtual machine or just like Ethereum or anything that uses EVM, it's like very easy to build an application that goes everywhere. So you can get like distribution to a lot of infra and I guess I just worry that people don't want to build on SVM because it's like too specific or something.
Is that the reason? Because it's too specific?
It's too specific. Maybe there's not enough documentation, or maybe they think there like aren't users there or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's generally that Solidity is much less intimidating in my experience. Talked to a lot of devs who built on not Solana even though they wanted to, because it's like, yeah, I know a guy who already does JavaScript or like Solidity, and that's a much easier person to find than somebody who's just gonna raw dog Rust or like C or something. So, but the good news is to solve a problem. Just need companies like Helios to basically go on top and start building some tooling. We've been building a lot of read layer stuff, and obviously transactions broke, so had to help with that as well. But now that that's getting much better, it's going to start going to the smart contract stuff and writing and SDKs that people can use right out of the box. So hopefully that helps with that.
Okay. Any other things you guys want to talk about?
What are some like protocols or products or applications that you guys want to see built that are missing from Solana?
Want to see build that are missing?
Yeah, like applications.
Okay, so my answer to this is almost always SocialFi. I think as a category, because like you take these three things, you take Solana's kind of community and social layer as being quite strong, but also unified because it's not fragmented across a bunch of different ecosystems, it's just one ecosystem. So there's a strong social layer. There's also the consumer focus with mobile, because consumer has to be on mobile in some sense. And then you take things like, you know, ZK compression, which makes working with tokens much, much cheaper. And then there's also a bunch of built-in token programs. You take all those things and it's like, it's very unclear to me why there's not a thriving SocialFi ecosystem. It honestly still boggles my mind, and I think that's going to be the next breakout thing. I'm getting some pitches for it already, but I think there's a long way to go there. A lot of experiments to run. I think Frentech just like didn't execute. I still think the idea is solid. I also like the email forwarding service thing. That was it SolLinked? That, but like a, you know, much more fleshed out version. Yeah. That I would use that. Yeah. So stuff like that I would love, personally.
So, I mean, I've heard you talk about more social apps, building the social layer. What do you think needs to be built?
I want to see more social apps that have less of a speculation component to it. I think it's hard though, like.
Yeah, what is that? Is that like a Strava on?
Oh yeah, like a what
like
is it?
Moonwalk.
Yeah, Moonwalk.
Yeah. Okay.
For snowboarding, that would be awesome.
Because I've talked to a lot of people about this, and probably the number one app I use is Strava. So like I've started using Moonwalk, and I told Nam and the others, like, it only counts my steps though. Like it doesn't count me cycling or whatever. So is that coming? And yeah. So anyway, for me personally, like fitness apps would be awesome to have.
Fitness is pretty cool. Like StepN was like,
that was awesome.
Obviously not wasn't sustainable for a variety of reasons. But I feel like that like kind of broke out of like the crypto like orbit into like normal people were talking about it.
Yeah, I mean that was amazing because, like you said, that brought a lot of normies. That some of my friends who were very, maybe just crypto curious got into it because they figured out that they could buy some shoes, go on a 30-minute walk, and make 30 or 40 bucks or whatever it was. It's totally worth it.